All right, says we're live on YouTube. So call the meeting to order at 3:31 p.m. First order on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the May 14th, 2020 special call meeting. Looks like Greg's joining us.
Hey, guys.
We're starting the meeting, Greg, and I'm asking for a motion to approve the minutes of the May 14th meeting. So,
All right.
I'll move to approve those meeting notes. This is Bill.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any additions, deletions, corrections anybody knows of? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. You want to put up the dashboard report, Roger? Were you going to put that up?
Blair's gonna put it up.
Okay. All right. Water revenue is still holding fairly strong, better than we anticipated for the period, but it's $1,338,000 versus a budget of $1,367,000. So we're slightly off a budget, but doing well. As you can see, the expenses $1,075,000 as compared to a budget of $1,249,000, giving us a net income in water of $263,000 positive compared to a budgeted number of $113,374. Okay, you can see the pie charts on the water balance and sewer balance. Looking at the sewer revenue, it's also doing reasonably well to budget at $564,000 against a budget of $587,000. Expenses are below budgeted. We're looking at even though it's a loss of $106,000 as compared to a loss of $144,000. So net, both water and sewer were good profit and well above what we had projected to be. You can look at the expenses over on the right-hand side, and but financials are holding up strong, even though right now Arkema has been offline for a shutdown, and we don't see much volume of water being consumed by Westlake PVC, but we're still holding strong as far as May was concerned for the year. Any questions about the financials? All right, if there's no.
I have one question. Looking at the bottom right-hand corner, utility locate request. It's 20. What does that mean?
Bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, utility locate request.
Okay, so that's the calls that we get to locate our water and sewer lines. And that's how many calls we got this past month. We had 20 calls to go out and locate our facilities in a specific work zone that was included on the ticket requesting for the utility locates. The old Bill call before you dig,
Yeah.
811. Yeah, that's what it is.
Is that a pretty typical number? 20? I don't remember.
It varies, you know, I'd say more like an average month would be 10.
I understand.
But we got several construction jobs going up in the area.
All right, any other questions? All right, no other questions from the board. I'll move on to the budget amendment, fiscal year 2021. We ran into a problem where we approved the trucks for purchase this year. We couldn't get them purchased in a timely manner in the month of June so that they would be on this year's budget. So we need to move those into the budget for the next fiscal year. And we're on a cash basis as opposed to an accrual basis. So we need to amend the budget to add those two trucks into capital plan for the 2021 budget year. We just couldn't get them bought and paid for in the month of June. So unless you got any questions, do I have a motion that we transfer those trucks to the budget for the 2021 year?
I'll make that motion.
Yeah. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed by like sign? Okay. All right. Looks like Steve's coming on, maybe. All right. Roger, you want to talk to us about the Mulberry Road water line extension?
Yes, I think a couple of months I told you guys that we had to lay a little water line extension on Mulberry Road, and we did a design in-house, and we've since completed that work. We had 3 residents out there that were on private service lines, and we were having continual problems with those lines developing leaks, and the chase, the material the lines were constructed from was just old and brittle and just wouldn't hold together. So we completed a line extension out there and got those services tied over. And in the process of doing so, we discovered down the road, probably 500 feet or so east, a good portion of our water mains exposed in alongside a roadside ditch that runs along US 62 at the toe of the field of US 62. And it appears to us that the water has just been running down along the trench of the water main and it eroded it out. And we're going to have to do something to fix that. And we felt like the best way to fix it was to actually relocate the water line to the other side of the road and get it out away from that ditch. And so that's one of the things that we were going to propose to work on here in the next couple of weeks. So the guys did a real good job constructing it. The part of the water line they've already built, and I think it was a good experience for them. And I want to concentrate on getting that into the system in a lot better shape. So what we're proposing to do is to amend the permit that we've got through the Division of Water and just go out and lay that portion of line down through there with in-house with their own crews again. And so we'll only be out the money for the pipe, but it would get the pipeline out of the ditch and make it a more stable operation. We don't want to run the risk of blowing that main out down there. So that's what that's about. It's just something that we found. It's, you know, it's not unusual. I'd say just about every one of the box culvert crossings along US 62 where we've got a water main, we've got problems, and we're going to have to spend some money to fix them. In most of those instances, the mains are exposed, and you know, we're going to just have to drop them down below the bottom. You know, the state's got to where they don't really maintain their culvert ditches much anymore. I don't know if they just don't have the budgetary funds or what the issue is, but I wanted to make the board aware of that. And I don't think we're talking about a tremendous amount of expense. There'll be some pipes, some valves, and you know, we've got the equipment and everything to do with it. Just have to get the time budgeted. I'm guessing it'd probably be July before we can get that done. So
Is this out by Highway 62, this side of Possum Trot?
it is.
Okay, near that Holly Hills Baptist Church?
Baptist Church, right across the road from that. It's in
Oh, okay.
between. Yeah, if you'll look out towards US 62 out from the Holly Hills Church, it's that ditch there. It's all eroded out. And, you know, I just think that there's enough water and stuff flowing through there. It's just eroded it all out and exposed that water line. Just found the easiest path of less resistance, let's say, and salt that, and that's what we got. Water line runs parallel with the ditch, and now it's, you know, it's not completely open there, but it's a maintenance. What we'd like to do is ultimately we want to get across that road there and run that water line down along PB Cloud, and then tie it into the old Calvert Road, and it will improve our grid for our system out there and make it more reliable should we have a main break. And it allows us to have multiple feed directions.
Okay,
Sounds good to me. Seems like wise move, and let's keep maintaining things and keep them so they can be used for a long time.
We probably, my guess is y'all won't have to take any action on it. I would say we'll keep our expenditures down within limits, you know, so you won't really have to take much action on it. Main thing I wanted to bring it up to your attention is just one of those items that we talked about a little when we were doing some capital planning, and it's really a maintenance project, but we're going to have more of these type of things that we're going to have to address. And then they just, you know, over a period of time, you start having issues like that, and we'll get it done, and just have to keep an eye on all that stuff.
all right, you want to go ahead and talk about the well field maintenance and improvements for you there, right?
Yeah, I just, now this is one that we're going to try to expend the money here this month on. We're going to head and clean well number 1. We've got proposals on it, and it's, you know, the amount, I don't know if everybody got I think I sent everybody the notes here within the scan of manager's notes on the agenda, but we had 2 proposals. One was from Brocky Well and Pump, and the other one was from Lane Central, and Lane appears to be the low price there. And that's probably the one that we'll go with. I'm verified for sure that they, you know, meet our spec and our intent of what we want to see there, which is basically a 2-step acid treatment with a hypochlorite disinfection to follow. And it's something that we've been doing pretty commonly. This one would be down through the pump, so it'll be a little less expensive. Last one we did, we pulled the pump and had to inspect it. By the time we were done with it, it ended up being a lot of money. I think we were out probably the time we rebuilt the pump and everything, close to $70,000 on rehabbing well number 2. But don't expect to have to do this here. Well number 1 was rebuilt not long, well, I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago. The well pump itself was. So we think we'll be able to clean and you know, pick up the specific capacity of it. But again, I wanted the board to know about that. That's $17,000 expenditure we're gonna make here, and we didn't have to you know, openly advertise and bid because of the amount of expenditure below $20,000. We just principles. So, like I said, to my recommendation, we go with a lower quote, provided that everybody agrees that they're going to do what we asked them to do. So,
Okay. All right, everybody agree with that? Okay. Moving on to the wastewater agreed order status.
okay, you just got several things going on with this project, and as we move forward, I want to keep the board abreast of what we're doing. Because the big deal with the wastewater treatment plant and influent lift stations improvements projects is sheer capital amount that we may have to expend on this. We really don't know what the final budget's going to be. Remember, we talked about it, and we've been approved for a loan in the amount of about $3 million, at least tentative approval. We're working through the administrative process now to get the final approval. And so I've been working with a reviewer, submitting the information that they've requested back and forth. And I don't anticipate any problem. One of the things they'll be looking at pretty closely are financials. I think we're okay right now, but at some point in time, they may ask us to consider increasing our rates to cover the extra debt expense, when we get to that point. But we're not going to commit to anything with, here until preliminary engineering reports and the board approves which direction we're going to go based on what the engineer tells us. So the design consultant is working on the project. They're working on the preliminary study right now. And we're in process of doing our field survey works associated with that preliminary work. I expect, probably in the next 6 weeks to receive a preliminary report from them where they've taken a look at several alternatives that they wanted to study, primarily associated with the lift station. And then they'll come back with a recommendation for us to consider to proceed on with final design. The other elements of that project are pretty straightforward. One that I would mention is that periacetic acid, which has gone very well here of recent. And our recommendation is that we make the move over to periacetic acid as our disinfectant. Now it's going to be a little more costly than the chlorine, but we believe that the extra cost will be outweighed by the reduced risk of gaseous chlorine, and we'll get rid of having to deal with our emergency operation plans and gaseous chlorine down there and those other mitigative measures. And we hope to get away from that gaseous chlorine at a water plant too. I mean, it's just hazardous, and it's a risk to deal with, and it costs a lot of money to keep our certifications up on our HAZWOPER status. So that's one of the things that we like to do. So we feel good about periacetic acid. We did get our trial extended on the use of periacetic acid until September, and I've talked to the engineer and told him that we'd like to see them prepare some drawings here to get us in position where we can permit that installation on a permanent basis. Outside of that, the rest of the project's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of pegging estimates to it and for us getting a budget together, and then the board approving the budget and getting a feel for what the impact is on our debt in the system and what kind of debt service requirements we're going to need there. So I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody's got in that respect. So
I don't hear any surprises. I appreciate you continue staying on top of that one. I'm glad the PAA is doing the work. I'm glad that sounds like it's going to be a good change for us.
So Dan, you want me to talk about the water treatment plant?
Yeah, let's move on to the water treatment plant. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So I've had several discussions over the past month with a consultant working on the water treatment plant preliminary study, and they're making some solid headway on that. They've basically prepared some preliminary process design. So they were able to take the data that we gave them and compiled it and completed the various analyses that are required to prepare the preliminary design. And right now they're in the process of working with some different vendors to get some understanding about what capital costs would be associated with equipment needed for the processes that they're reviewing. And they anticipate sometime this month they'll have that all pulled together in the form of a technical memorandum, at which time they'll want to have a project status meeting with us, and then report roughly what their recommendations are based on the review. And I suspect, we'll take the recommendations, and there's going to be some legwork that we're going to need to do with some of our customers to discuss, what the findings might be. We've all talked about wanting to reduce the hardness in our water. And I think that's a great goal to have, but there's a cost associated with that. And as a group, I think the board has to be comfortable that that extra cost is worth the benefit. So we'll be working on that to see what we come up with. So. Any questions on the water plant?
All right, if none, let's go ahead to this automated meter procurement. That's one of my favorite discussions is on this.
Okay, so I pretty much got the technical specifications prepared to move forward with a procurement for the meter replacement project, and I wanted to go ahead and get that done. One of the details that we'll have to look at, tentatively in setting the budget up, we were wanting to go ahead and utilize that city line of credit to fund the capital on that phase of the replacement. I think it's important to get started with that right now, because as we set the budget up, remember one of the footnotes in the budget, which we'll talk with council about tonight, is that we want to be able to put the $4 per meter charge on come January 1, 2021 to help us offset the cost of the installation of the meters. That had been tentatively approved by the council before. I mean, I know there's no guarantees, and they're going, have an election and all that, but that's the direction that I would like to see us take. We're probably going to need that revenue. I don't think our sales are going to be as strong as they are in this current fiscal year. This next year, I'll be a little attentive on how much money we feel like we're going to get revenues. We're probably going to need to look at every source we can to help fund that. But I would like to start that procurement process and make those advertisements this month. We did have that in the budget. If the budget gets approved as it is, I guess that would be the trigger, for us to proceed on. But I wanted to make sure that the board didn't have any problem with that going out of the gate with it first thing this year. Now, I would tell you that we don't have to buy all these meters at once. We'll set the procurement up to stage our purchases, so we don't get committed to a massive dollar figure right out of the gate. We'll make them hold their price over a 6-month period or something like that. We may pay for it on the front end, but that's probably the safe play in case we don't get our revenues in anywhere near projecting.
Okay, is everybody still in agreement that we move forward with that and also request the $4 meter charge? Anybody got any problems one way or the other with that?
Yes to your first question, no to your second. Yes, no, I don't have a problem with it.
All right. Everybody okay? Steve, you with us, sir? I've seen you. But...
I am momentarily.
Okay. All right. Coming and going.
Momentarily, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I'd mention about the meters, I do expect for us to pick our revenues up once we replace meters. I think we've talked about that before. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't gain 5% on our revenues. That's just what we're missing metering, I believe.
Okay. All right. Well, Roger, now talk to the city council about that then. All right. The next item on the agenda, the 135 Grant Street delinquent bill deal. This is just on here for your knowledge as much as anything. But we have another customer complaint because of the fact that there was an outstanding delinquent amount of $265 since 2010 on a piece of property that this person has bought, and now they're a little upset because they've got to pay the $265 that was left on that property. Roger has informed them that the policy is the policy, and until we get it changed, which is the next line item on the agenda, but we just wanted to let you know that this is continuing on, and hopefully that what we're doing with the changing that ordinance will make everything better for this kind of thing going forward.
So no one's been living there for 10 years?
This particular meter, I think that lot's been vacant for 10 years up there on Grant Street. The way I understand it, the fellow I talked to, they built a house up there, and he's wanting to use this meter for an adjacent accessory structure, a garage, I believe. So, I mean, that's what the deal is. And I understand the frustration factor, you know, from the property owner standpoint. I told him, but I also told him too, that the board really doesn't have discretion in the, it's written, the policy's written the way it is, it's in ordinance form. And, you know, we as a group, and we really don't have the discretion to change that. That's something that was adopted by the council and is local law. And I think he understood that. I told him that we're reviewing another ordinance right now to replace that, and we expect to have it on the council agenda pretty quickly. And I think they were probably okay with that. So, I mean, okay, but not okay. I don't know.
Yeah, he won't be able to talk to the council about it anyways.
No. He's got a relative that's on the council, so he can.
Yeah, but they're not in the city either.
No, they're not. But it's just one of those things. It's you know, you know, I explained to him, I said, look, it's just like a lien placed on a piece of property. If you leave and you don't pay your taxes, government will place a lien on your property to collect the tax money. This is the same principle, and I think he understood that. It might not taste right, but I told him, I said, this group can't overturn it. You know, we don't have the authority to do that. And so when Dan and I were talking about that, y'all remember the previous one, the Weldon property. Now I wanted to let y'all know they paid that bill. The Weldons did. So they paid it. Somebody else got into their house down there. So that one's been taken care of.
Okay. Let's say, I want to ask on this one, our policy goes into place, let's say, and say this same person, it was a year from now, they approached us. When they start to want to use that meter, what will happen different is they'll put down a deposit, correct?
Right. They'll put down a $150 deposit.
So it's almost the same effect, but we'll just call it something different, and they may not deposit.
The deposit's refundable, you know, the only, you know, it'll be refundable. The only way we would ever collect on it is if you didn't pay the bill. So,
well, that's Linda's. It's an opportunity to say that to them, maybe appease folks.
well, it is what it is, and I made him aware of that. He was aware of it, so.
The 265 would be gone, and we wouldn't never collect that. So, which I'm sure it's already written off the books. So, all right, moving on then into the ordinance proposal, Greg, section 50.42 and 50.44 of the Code of Ordinances. You and Roger kind of ran into a little issue that we needed to talk about on that before you bring it before the city council, correct?
Yeah, there was one item of discretion that was given to Roger under the old ordinance that is not given to Roger under this ordinance. And there are times when Roger really appreciates having that discretion, and other times I would assume he wishes that he didn't. Here's the situation. 50.42 as it reads right now is, if you don't pay your, well, here's the last line, at such time as 30 days after rendition of any monthly bill, the deposit will be applied toward the payment of delinquent charges, period. We don't have any exceptions to that. And it will be used to pay charges, penalties, and all other sums then due and owing to the city relative to that account. And service will be promptly discontinued. So if you don't pay your bill in 30 days, that's what happens. And service will only be reestablished in accordance with section 50.44, which states that service will only be reinstated upon the earlier of payment of all outstanding delinquent bills, penalties, and charges, and reinstatement of the original deposit, or upon application by some unrelated third party. Presently, Roger has the discretion that if somebody comes in and he thinks that the situation justifies them being given some longer period of time to pay, he can do that. But there's no real standard for that. It's just to his approval. If somebody comes in and says, I need an extra 60 days to pay my bill, or I need an extra whatever to pay my bill, he has right now sort of unbridled discretion to be able to do that. Sometimes he finds that to be desirable. However, I probably don't even need to say this. You guys probably already can realize that you establish all kinds of precedents, and you theoretically can't discriminate between different users. And it draws into question that is a usable practice that Roger has used. However, be aware that that practice does draw into question everything, and it establishes a precedence. Every time he gives somebody an extra period of time to pay, the next person that comes in, if nothing else, could say that's arbitrary. You know, there's not a standard for when you can grant those extensions. But if you wish to consider allowing some possibilities where Roger could grant people a longer period of time to pay their bill, we need to talk about that and talk about what those standards would be and how you would want to work that into our current proposal, because our current proposal simply is a black and white, no administrative discretion kind of thing. If you don't pay your bill in 30 days, your water gets cut off and it doesn't get turned back on until it does get paid. Roger, you can clarify any skew that I put to that.
Well, I mean, so the one thing I would say is, you know, when we have a request like that, it's not arbitrarily giving out to, you know, the customer has to demonstrate some form of hardship or inability to pay. Normally those type of things are really not granted unless you have a large leak. So Calvert Water does not have a leak adjustment policy outside the sewer system. And I've had several instances where we've had customers have $1,000 water bill where they had a leak and they didn't know about it. And so that particular measure was used to help temper the payments back to get whole with the thing. I would say that, I don't know, Glenda could weigh in on this, but we don't have a tremendous amount of those requests in any given year, but we may, you know, have something on the order, maybe 10, 15, something like that going in any kind of year, just trying to deal with that. It's mostly fixed income people that are ones that are recipients of that. We don't, you know, we don't just give that out for everyone. So.
Roger. Roger, the question,
I
And
personally,
if you guys decide to go that way, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Bill.
I would personally, yeah, I would recommend you stay with it, because if you don't stay with it, you're gonna get it on the board side of it. And this ain't New York City, it's Calvert City, Kentucky. So I think we can administer it fairly. That's just my opinion. Greg may not agree
Roger,
with that,
current-
but that's my opinion.
Roger, current property owners that have not fallen under the deposit will not have a deposit to work with. So we've got to do something with them, right?
Right, and I would argue that even the ones with the deposit, some of these bills, when you have a big leak, they'll blow right out of that $150 deposit. I mean, they will. It's not unusual. So,
my comment is if you are comfortable with the discretion, do you think that would be good for you as a general manager in your experience? And for future general managers is also my concern. Do you think this is good? Do you think this is something we need to have a part of your discretion? I mean, is it a burden, or is it something that, you've been able to manage without adding more stress to your world? I mean, if you needed to add the stress to our world, we can write it up that way, but.
it's not that stressful for us. And I would say that historically, I've been here like 9 years, coming up on 9 years. And I'd say 85 to 90% of it, most people that they say they're going to make the payments, they make the payments when they say they're going to do it. And the ones that are not, we have to call them and remind them we do, and if they fail to, we just try to work with them and get it done. And I won't tell you that there hadn't been a couple of them that didn't make it happen. There probably has, but as an overall rule of thumb, we're not bleeding a lot of cash on that deal right there. It's been okay. And I'd say most times we tell people that we want them to resolve and get whole on their bill within 3 months. I mean, that's about the max we'll let them carry that out, unless it's just, a super amount that we know that they can't do it. I mean, you mostly can tell who you're dealing with and whether or not they can do it or not. So.
Well, let me throw in the 7th grade civics. You all understand that in the United States, we're a country of rules, not men. We're governed by law, not men. And so if we cut somebody's water off because they didn't make their payment in 30 days, and somebody else, and they came in and said, oh, but we'll pay you in 6 months, or we'll pay you in 3 months, or we'll pay you some other time. But we cut their water off anyway. If there are other people for whom we have not cut their water off, then the obvious argument is that's unconstitutional. You can't just decide what feels good in your heart, and we're not going to make them pay now. We're going to make somebody else pay, but we're going to cut your water off, but we're not going to cut your water off because we just like them better, or they're friends of ours, or they're related to somebody, or I was there at your baptism, or whatever. With no standard, if there's not a
Can
standard.
we not write that? Can we not write that up, that in case of something like a water leak beyond their control, all we're doing is allowing them to set up payments. We're not forgiving the bill, right?
That's correct. We're not forgiving the bill. We're just allowing to have an installment to take care of the pay. We generally
That's right. We're not
Yeah.
saying you can pay. We're not deferring payment. We're simply setting it up on a payment schedule. So I guess we're deferring complete payment, but we're
Right.
not saying, no, you got 30 more days to pay your bill, right?
That's what we're saying.
We can qualify that by events beyond their control. Somebody gets hit with a $3,000 or $4,000 water leak, and they're trying to pay it. I don't see why that's not doable.
Well, we need to establish a standard, because if the reason they can't pay it is they lost their job, or they got a cut and pay, or they got their hours cut back, or they had a baby born and had medical bills, or or a car broke down and they had to get their car fixed, or a million other hardships.
We can't just say if this
got-
affects your
we- we're go-
water bill, Greg. I know we can run around the world, but there's no sense in us making this just that complicated. We can set a standard for
You-
somebody that has a water leak. It's got to be dealt to their water meter, not whether they got a job or not. Now, can't we narrow that down and do
That's
that?
if it's a, yes, if that's what, yes, absolutely. If
I
you can
mean,
set
we
a
can do the
standard, if you can set some
hypothetical
sort of
now
a,
for this time next year. That's what we're
Right.
talking about. Somebody
But
has
if
a
what
water
you wanna
leak,
do-
right?
I don't know, Roger, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, we don't normally, we would not normally grant somebody a hardship on a normal bill. It's usually something that's out of the ordinary. It's not that we go in there and grant everybody hardship exceptions. That's typically, and I'm not going to guarantee you that it's always been that way, but when I've been asked about it, I typically look at the bill that they've got out in front of them, and it has to be significantly out of range of what a typical bill would be, and it's usually related to a leak.
Could we write something in there to the effect that we would consider a payment plan not to exceed a set time, maybe 6 months, if a water bill exceeds a normal one by, let's say, at least three times due to an unforeseen incident. If someone fills their pool, well, that's kind of foreseen. No respite there, but like you said, is if it was a water leak and there it's at least three times the normal monthly bill, we could say, okay, well, we can work with you, but it has to be paid back within 6 months, let's say. But it has to exceed, let's say, three times a normal bill for them. And it has to be an unforeseen incident.
Can
Yeah,
you
I
do
think
better than
that-
normal bill, Paul? What would you mean? Do you mean three times the deposit? Would it be three times the deposit, or how would you, three times what number?
Three times is just a number I came up with, it's just a number we could go with, like three
Sure.
times their normal bill, at least three times their normal monthly bill for the past 12 months. Or
Their
three times
average.
their maximum bill in the last 12 months.
I'd
Yeah,
say
three times their maximum bill in the last 12 months. That's easy. Yeah, you can do that. That's a very black and white manageable kind of a rule. That if they come in and their bill is more than three times their highest bill in the last 3 months, then you can give Roger, well, in fact, you can just say Roger can allow them to repay that debt over a period not to exceed whatever, 6 months, 3 months, 12 months, whatever.
So let's-
During that period of time.
Because
they
that's not
would pay.
discretionary. That's a rule.
So let's agree on what that rule is, and that way you can craft it and move on to the council
Yeah.
with the recommendation.
I think
Yeah,
Ann was gonna mention, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but that amount is separate from their regular bill. Their regular bill still needs to keep on being paid.
Right, they gotta pay their regular bill plus that extra every month during that 3 to 6 month period that we're allowing them to pay the overage.
Okay, so could we word it, let's say, at least three times the highest bill in the last 12 months due to an unforeseen excessive water use. Would allow the manager to negotiate a payment plan not to exceed 6 months.
Why don't we just say 6 months? So we don't wind up with any, there's no arbitrariness about it. If your bill's more than 6 months, more than 3 times your highest bill in the last 12 months, then you can make arrangements with, you gotta contact the superintendent, and the superintendent can allow you to make that payment over a period of in equal installments over a period of 6 months.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Does that work?
That's something easy to manage, Roger.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
So highest bill in the last 12 months, 3 times the highest bill in the last 12 months, you can, you can contact Roger and pay that bill over a 6-month period, beginning with the current month, and in equal installments over a 6-month period, beginning with the current month. Right?
But it also has to be
Did
an
I understand that
unforeseen
correctly?
expense. Sorry, it also has to be an unforeseen expense. I don't want to have people, like they said, fill in their swimming pool and expecting to be able to pay that over 6 months.
Also, Greg, make clear that it's above and beyond their normal bill. So
What, say that, make sure what's above and beyond their normal bill.
Their payment is up and above their normal bill.
Oh, that the repayment, okay.
yes,
Gotcha. Okay. To allow customers to pay, these are just my notes to me to remind me what to do. To allow customers to pay over 6 months if a bill is 3 times the highest bill over the last 12 months because of unforeseen circumstances.
what, more than 3 times? 3 times or more?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of basically talking about a water
more than
leak,
3
though,
times.
aren't we?
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's because of a water leak, not because it's Paul's saying, not because they filled up a pool or they left a hydrant running.
Well, someone could have
Does
stolen the
unforeseen
water.
circumstances cover that, or?
Yeah, you got that phrase, unforeseen circumstances. That would,
What I've got is unforeseen circumstances, but if you want to be more restrictive, we can do it more, however you want to do it. Unforeseen circumstances or water leak, however restrictive you want to be.
I kind of like it, the unforeseen circumstances, rather than tying it directly to a water leak. Because if your neighbor turns your water faucet on and you're gone, lets it run, that's unforeseen in your standpoint.
Correct.
what fills up their pool with your water, as we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
You had that accusation, Steve, before you were on the board.
Yeah, Linda, okay with that approach? Is that okay with you all? Can you manage that and everything without a lot of heartache?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Okay. I'll draft it.
Anybody else? Don't know if the rules are exactly right because we went from 4 to 3:30, but that's the last item on the agenda. I don't know if we got any other questions or not that we can take.
Roger,
Yes, sir.
how are your teams working? Have you still got them separated because of the COVID-19? Is that system working?
It's worked so far, and, you know, it's not perfect, but it's working. We're trying to adhere to the standards that the governor's office put out for construction workers when we're in the field and for when we're in the office workers. So we still have a group that reports outside the normal office, and then we got a group that reports to the office.
Paul?
Yeah.
It's your turn.
Oh, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I have a second.
I'll second that.
Mm.
It's my turn.
Okay.
I've
Okay,
just
see you
done my
guys.
job.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
See y'all the next
Aye.
time around.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.